Hello writer friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kimberly, writer and teacher, and today we're going to be talking about locations. Now, before we get started, smash that like, and if this is your first time here, please subscribe, ring that bell. I post new videos on Wednesday. This video was requested by Hemfi Madai. Hopefully I said that right, and if I got it wrong, I apologize. I am the worst when it comes to pronouncing names, so I apologize. She had asked, how can you write about a location that you've never been to and are unfamiliar about everything involved in that location? I'm going to be breaking down 6 tips to be able to help you write about a location that you've never been to and come across authentic on the page. So let's get right into it. Number 1, culture matters, and avoiding stereotypes is essential. Now, a lot of people don't know that in different cultures, there are different aspects that make up that culture. Understanding the different aspects of a specific culture will help you understand how to avoid stereotyping that culture, especially if it's a demographic you are very unfamiliar with and a country that you really know nothing about. I highly suggest you do research on that particular country, as it will come across authentic if you actually take the time to really understand what that is. And on a similar note, number 2, research common things that are in that area. Their currency, their food, what type of clothing do they wear, what type of lifestyle do they live? Are they typically the kind of household where it is the man is the breadwinner and the woman is the one who stays home? There are certain cultures that is absolutely how it works, and it is unethical for the woman to actually work. So these types of things you need to make sure that you take into account, as if somebody is reading that from that demographic, they're going to know the difference immediately. Number 3, what are common places for that particular area? What kind of bars or taverns do they have? What type of buildings do they usually have? Are they skyscrapers or are they crumbling? These different types of elements will bring a different type of depth to that demographic. Now, you can also decide to change the names of places. For instance, if there's a particular building that is like the Empire State Building in New York, you don't have to use that building. You can use the area of where that is, but change what the name of the building is. This will help readers who are in that area. They'll know what that area looks like, but you can change the name. This will help you avoid any kind of legal action. For instance, if you were to speak about a particular building or company in a derogatory manner, they typically can sue if they choose to, but it's very rare that that would happen. However, to protect yourself, you definitely can change the name of a place to something completely different that doesn't actually exist, but that readers can look and go, oh, I know where that area is. I know what street that is. I've seen that area. And that gives them a way of being able to connect to that area. Now, how can you go about choosing street names? Well, there's Google Street View. You can also go to your local library and take a look at a lot of the travel books. If you don't have a local library, you probably have some kind of bookstore, and bookstores also have travel books. Now, that's not something I would tell you to rely on. There is also Google. There's many different things you can look up. Wikipedia is another one that will give you some ideas on certain cultures because it does have information there. But I would definitely consider being very vigilant about what types of places and areas you're choosing for common areas. Common areas are something that people are often very familiar with. So, like myself, I am very familiar with the Strip in Las Vegas. If you were to say X casino doesn't exist on Las Vegas Boulevard in Las Vegas, Nevada, I'm going to know whether or not that's true. So you can change the name of a place and people will still be able to visualize what that looks like. Number 4, sensitivity and beta readers. Yes, you do need them. I'm not kidding. Yes, sensitivity readers sometimes cost money. That is true. And if you have a readership where I'm guessing you probably don't have much of a readership right now, which is fine, there are sensitivity readers on different places such as Readsy, as well as Fiverr, but I would be very careful on Fiverr because I hear a lot of scams happen on Fiverr. So just be very careful. If you need help trying to figure out what kind of scams there are, I will make sure I put a link in the description of the common scams that you'll find in the writing community. Just be sure that you get some kind of reference. Now you can find the references like this on their profile. Usually there are reviews of something, but sensitivity readers for a demograph is essential in being sure that you're not coming across offensive. And yes, I know you can't please everybody, so let me just make sure I point that part out. I'm aware of that, but it does help to be able to have somebody who's reading that to understand and see whether or not what you're saying and the visuals you are giving are all coming across in a cohesive manner. It will matter when it finally comes down to that demographic reading your book as a customer. Number 5, ask yourself, is it really necessary? And be honest with yourself when you do so, because being honest with whether or not you really need to be writing about this other location is really that essential. Writing about a location you are unfamiliar with can stunt your ability to be able to complete and come across authentic. So being honest with yourself as to whether or not it's absolutely necessary for you to be writing about that area is something you have to really ask yourself. And this question should be something you are brutally honest with yourself. Can your story be told in another area that you are familiar with? Only you can answer that. So I'm not even going to give an answer to that one right now. But as a newer writer, which I'm going to assume that you're a newer writer if you're here, as a newer writer, it is always best to try and write about something you are more familiar with than you are unfamiliar with, if that makes sense. And when you're honest with yourself about whether this actually matters to be written in that area, it will help when readers are trying to connect. Because if it's coming across bland, flat, the descriptions come off wrong, it doesn't come together very well, you may be able to get the upper hand for your writing and be able to come across more authentic in an area that you are familiar with, and be able to throw in a little bit of spice of other cultures in that area. That way you still get to be able to write about a culture you're unfamiliar with, but also be able to still write about something you are familiar with. So I do suggest you take this question very seriously. Is it really necessary? That's all. Now, number 6. Create the world all your own. Now, this is probably the easiest one. A lot of newer writers will typically write a story that they are very familiar with. They know everything about it because they wrote the world themselves. They wrote the currency. They wrote how people come into power. They wrote all of the different war as well as the food that they eat, how they go across their markets, how people typically dress and live, and how their life actually is. This is why it's so much easier for people to just create a fantasy world themselves, because they don't have to go according to something that is already done. They get to go according to something they've done, which always in a lot of ways will make the writing process for them a little bit easier, because they can rely on simply something they've created, not something that they have to conform to. So ask yourself, do you really want to write about an area you're unfamiliar with, or do you want to make it someplace that is completely fresh, new to the world, and something nobody else has ever seen before? Now, this is something that you want to make sure you ask yourself, as world building takes a lot of work out. And when I say world building, I'm meaning things of everything. You need to be able to make your world believable in the sense that readers can say, oh, I connect to that. I like how they did that. I like how the king came into power, or how he took the throne from his brother or whoever else. Whatever your story is about, creating the world all your own gives you all of the control to do whatever you want. It doesn't even matter. You could be having them naked for all that anyone cares, because it's your world. That's how the clothing is. They're just naked people. Or the education system in your world is different. What if they are 10 years old before they learn how to use magic? Or they're born with magic, but some kind of piece of the world doesn't allow them to use their magic until X age. So things like this can happen without coming across difficult and difficult or boring. I'm not saying you have to choose to create a world all your own, but you should ask yourself if it might be easier and more fun to be able to write about a world that's all your own. These are things to answer yourself, as nobody can tell you anything, and no one can tell you exactly how to run your world when it's everything you've created. It's also something that gives you 100% control. And a lot of writers love that because they don't have to stick to a specific type of anything. They get to make everything out of nothing. So that is all I have for you today. I hope some of these tips were helpful. Thank you so much, Hempy, for requesting this video. If you would like to have a video dedicated to you, be sure to subscribe and drop a comment below of what you would like to see in the future, as I'm always taking suggestions from subscribers. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, hit that like, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.